PSA High-Tech Super Series reaches a climax in the atmospheric surroundings of the Granite City, Aberdeen, high on the east coast of Scotland, as the best players jet in for the final event of the year, the I Group British Open. For Peter Nicol, it's the ideal place to defend his British Open title, only 15 minutes from his family home. And as current number 2, he'll be expecting to meet world number 1 Jonathon Power from Canada once again in what could be a classic final to end a ding-dong battle for that number 1 position all season. But they've both had a shock recently in the last major event, the US Open. Englishman Simon Park beat them both to establish himself as a new force to be reckoned with. And in the event before that, the Heliopolis Open, Ahmed Barada from Egypt came out on top to prove his number 3 world ranking is fully justified. So lots of expectation amongst the crowds gathering here in the Aberdeen Exhibition and Conference Centre. This the first time in its history the British Open has come to Scotland, and there's a great buzz about the event. Well, the Scots proving to be avid squash fans, and thanks to event support from Sports Scotland, they have a chance to enjoy a feast of top-level squash, as we now prepare to join the competition at the semi-final stage. And at the quarter-finals, everything going as per the form book. Jonathon Power just getting through against Martin Heath after a bruising confrontation in which the referee had to come on court to separate them. Barada, Park and Nicol through a little more easily. The question will be, has that affected the style of the flamboyant Canadian? We're about to find out, because when he meets Barada, the sparks usually fly, and Simon Park from England matches up once again against his old rival Peter Nicol from Scotland. Peter Nicol, the most relaxed player here, and no wonder with all this home support. And so far, cruising through the qualifying, only losing one game as he took out Anthony Ricketts in round 1, Dan Jensen in round 2, and eventually Anthony Hill in round 3.
I'm delighted, obviously. I mean, I never thought I'd be playing a major event here, especially not the British Open. So it is a dream come true. You know, all the old cliches work. It's perfect. I'm being in the semi-final. The top 4 players in the world, I'd say at the moment, top standard-wise, are in the semi-finals as well. So it's a great event. Just like to see if I can carry on and win it.
But his semi-final opponent is on top form.
Yeah, Simon got a lot of confidence from winning the US. I mean, a tough match against me. Then he pitched up the next day and beat Jonathon 3-2 in another long match. So physically he's in great shape. Mentally he desperately wants it, and he's playing better than I've ever seen him play. So the first few exchanges will be important just to set the tone, and expect a long one. However the outcome is going to be a long, hard physical match.
And certainly Simon Park is going to be no walkover. Equally, cruising through the opening rounds, only dropping one game as he took out Mark Challoner, David Palmer and Paul Johnson.
Feeling good. I've had a good run up to the semi-finals and playing well. It's a continuation of the US Open, and I hope to carry on with another win today.
But is his recent form an indication of bigger things to come?
Well, it seems to have just clicked right for me. I've been pushing away for quite a while, and the last year it seems I've been playing a bit better, and I've been pushing Pete Nicol and Jonathon Power, but not quite getting there. But this time I did it.
Fascinating match in prospect then, as we join our court commentators, Robert Edwards, assisted by Chris Robertson.
Thank you, Alan. And yes, Simon Park, world number 5, steps up to serve to start this first semi-final against Peter Nicol, the world's number 2 and the local hero, because the 1999 British Open has taken place and hosts this year Aberdeen, the European oil capital. And unusual venue, but the squash still of the highest possible standard, Robbo.
Well, we're talking about a quality semi-final here, Robert. Simon, full of confidence after beating Peter last week in the US Open. Form has been terrific leading up to this match. Has looked really sharp. He's playing the local hero and everybody's favourite for this tournament.
And if there's any doubt of who is who, let me explain. In the all-black kit, Simon Park. Just driving that ball to the back of the court. And as you say, very much the in-form man of the tournament. He's played very well, devastating form against Paul Johnson, the world number 4. What a clash that was. Both English, 4 and 5 in the world, and Simon Park, in all honesty, showed us what he can do. Very few points given away, and if he can produce that form here against Peter Nicol, Peter's in for a hard ride.
Well, it was the sheer earliness of his taking of the ball against Paul Johnson, which was the highlight. Similar to this type of situation here at the moment.
Yes, let.
Peter's got a let there, but Simon's getting on the ball in front of the short line, moving the ball very well leading up to this. It's whether or not Peter's going to allow him to do that, Robert, and when he's not allowed to do that, how Simon's going to react to not being on the ball so early.
Yes, of course. For me, Simon Park is one of the most exciting players in the world. His all-court movement is really something to see. Over this season, I can remember some marvellous moments, especially Maastricht, him receiving something like 2-3 minute standing ovation, and that was because he played this game with magic touch and real heart. A gritty Yorkshire player brings something special to this to the game of squash, and he's starting pretty well here.
Well, he's had an excellent start. He's taken up where he left off in the quarterfinals, on the ball nice and early, getting on it slightly before Peter at the moment. It's also a little bit of a betting in for both players.
Nice confidence there from Simon. Look casual, but this early in the match to see you slotting the ball off the tee, good to see. Usually Simon's trait has been to get on the end of the whip and do a lot of running. If he can cut that down, it'll make a big difference, but I'm sure Peter Nicol will have intentions of moving him around the court and controlling the match from the centre of the court. Can Simon stop him? That's the interesting point.
I also think the fact that he's taken Paul Johnson out as well, Robert, who's a left-hander, quite comprehensively. Peter's a left-hander, so obviously Simon hasn't found that area too difficult to adjust to. It is about imposing each other's game and how they react. And there we see a situation where Simon has some options, chooses a more difficult one down the line. Peter's played him a number of times, and obviously read that.
It'll be interesting to see how much confidence it's also given Simon, coming straight off the back of the US Open in Boston when he beat Peter in a huge match, 3-2, and that will have given him a little flip, a little extra something in his current form. But local support certainly will be for this hero, Peter Nicol, and what a man he's been for the game and for Scotland. This year receiving his MBE from the Queen, services to squash, quite rightly. A leading player, number 2 in the world at the moment, and that bites hard. He really thinks he's the best. Jonathon Power has pinched that spot off him in the last ranking list from PSA. 3-4. And always at this stage of a match, both players playing the cat and mouse game, feeling each other out, testing the waters, trying to push the ball deep, take some control. A lot of experience on this court.
I think experience is a very important word in a semi-final of this magnitude, Robert. Peter Nicol's been there and done it, as they say. Simon's yet to experience that. He knows he's good enough to be here and to progress. It's how he handles it if he finds himself having to deal with the pressures of trying to beat Peter and his home crowd.
And of course, Peter, as the defending champion, is not going to let that trophy go very easily. Won it last year in England, and very emotional final. First British player after 25 years, following the great Jonah Barrington to lift the trophy. And Peter Nicol definitely wants to retain it. He's got a place on his mantelpiece for this for many years to come. Good rally.
Yeah,
building well.
A lot of control there from Peter. Loses the point to a nice drop shot there from Simon. Good control there from Peter. Slowed up the ball quite well, which is a tactic he'll use if Simon's getting on it too fast, just to lift it up. It's a nice even start from both players.
And a good crowd here today in Aberdeen, enjoying the squash. Wonderful bonus for them to have the best players in the world arrive in their city. And this one offers a lot. If we can get both of the players playing to their potential, this is going to be a cracker of a match. Two of the most popular players on the circuit. Peter Nicol, very much your gentleman player, but with a heart of steel.
Good lift there from Peter. Nice counter drop shot. Oh, super get there from Simon. He's over the court again. Oh, well played, Peter.
Well, that's a tough one, and this match is starting to promise a few tough rallies to start it off.
So a fascinating battle in progress for the crowd. But don't forget about our viewers' competition. Your chance to win a pair of the squash shoes that the top pros wear. Coming up also after the break. Welcome back here to the Aberdeen Exhibition and Conference Centre, where we rejoin Robert Edwards and Chris Robertson for the climax of that first game.
14-12, game ball.
So game ball to Peter Nicol to take this first game, and that would be something to take the first game semi-final. Always a big boost. The whole of this first game has been close, nip and tuck to both players, and I'm sure Simon has got a few tricks in that bag of skills there yet to come out. Let's see. Still game ball to Peter Nicol in the white shirt, defending champion.
Been a definite swing around Robert though from the first part of the game. Peter's got a lot more control of the tee area. Got Simon working like he is now. Starting to hustle a lot more.
Oh, well, that's an answer. Took that out of the air, slotted it.
Wow, that's a great answer. Was under a lot of pressure there. Didn't see the middle of the court apart to run through it.
Simon Park serving, but still 13-14 down, and that's game ball against. So if Peter can take this live point, he's one game to love up. Park desperate now to get back on level terms at 14 all. What's he got? Is it going to be another one of those devastating shots? Well, he's certainly got a bag full of those, and that one, unfortunately, is not the good one. He finds the top of the tin. And Peter Nicol, one game to love up in this first semi-final of the 1999 British Open. The crowd settle themselves. This second game, 1-all. And it'll be interesting to see if there'll be a change of tactic from either player. Certainly the first game, very tight. There wasn't a great deal in it, Robbo.
Well, no, it really was a game that both players probably felt they should take. Good periods of control from both. Peter got the upper hand as the game went on. Just worries me a little bit at the moment that Simon's not getting the ball in the middle of the court enough. Starting to get on that bit of a chain he can get on. I don't think Peter's going to make enough mistakes unless you put him under a lot more central pressure.
And that's a terrific whip for Peter Query in the pickups.
But at the moment, Robert, Simon's having to hit very good shots to win rallies.
That's it with Peter Nicol. Really, he is so tight, so professional. He gives so little away.
The strength of his game, Robert, is his consistency, good tee control, takes the ball nice and early, just works you around. Simon can do that. He needs to take that part away from Peter. Needs to get Peter chasing a little bit from behind. And that type of shot is a great confidence booster to Peter and really dents Simons. That was in the bottom of the tin, almost even the floor.
Well, that was not quality par. But there is one gritty player out there who you'd put your money on to fight to the death, it's got to be Simon Park.
Stroke to Park.
Asking for and receiving the stroke. Yes, the backswing was impeded there. Good decision. And the crowd enjoying their squash. Peter Nicol wipes his hand and it's 12-8. Just 3 points away from a 2-game-to-love lead, and he'd be delighted with that. Certainly against great danger man Simon Park. One of the tips for this title. But Simon having to do a fair bit of work now. Peter Nicol controlling that front section of the court and pushing his opponent around.
We just saw evidence, Rob, of a great tactic that Peter's been employing. Once Simon takes him forward, he's been trying to close Peter down. He's just been lifting the ball straight and cross court, just trying to take the pace off the situation. Not allowing Simon to use that explosiveness onto the ball. Really controlling the tempo. Nice volley lob there again. Very intelligent play. And obviously worked out with his coach how they were going to tackle this challenge from the #1 English contender.
And this is a terrific rally. Both players having to do a fair bit of running around and a lot of thinking going on out there. Oh, that's a terrific width there. Terrific length. Simon Park punching that ball deep and taking the point.
And again, he got it by a good early volley. Quickly whipped it across Peter. Peter's kept the ball away from that part of the court very well for a game and a half now. But then he follows it up. He has a chance. He follows it up with a mistake.
Too many of those at key times, and this is a key time. Peter Nicol 13-9, just 2 points away from 2-love in this semi-final. A lot of supporters travelled up to Aberdeen to get behind Simon Park. A lot of Yorkshire accents out there. And he was in a winning position, but finds the top of the tin. Queries the pickup. Game ball. Peter Nicol to go 2-love up. Simon desperately looking for a cheap one, and has surely picked up a good point there. High backhand drop. One of the hardest shots in the world. Play with great delicacy, and he's back into hand. But still 4 points adrift, and Peter Nicol on game ball.
And yet again, Robert, it took a fantastic shot from Simon to win the point. Good exchanges there from both players.
I think that's the secret of Peter Nicol. To beat him, you've got to produce your best. There's no cheap wins against the man. Parky working very, very hard. Seems to have really had a settling period now with some good wins and good results and producing what we always knew he had. But there, too much of a job for him. That perfect length gives the second game to Peter Nicol. 2-love in this first semi-final of the 1999 British Open. Happy spectator on the left, obviously from Inverurie. 3-5 in the third game. Simon Park takes some air on, prepares himself slowly, and I wonder, Robbo, tactically, if Simon Park should be looking now to change the tactics he's employed in the first two games.
Well, obviously a 2-love down, Robert. Things don't look great. Just sort of wonder whether he went on with the intention of trying to take Peter on physically and drawing the match out, or did he go on with the idea of trying to play the aggressive squash that he's been playing, because Peter's limited him, he's taken that away from him. And Simon, I don't think, has hurt Peter enough physically just by rallying and using his strong aerobic boast. But I suppose that's all experience, and you learn from this. Things are not looking good for him at the moment. Peter has got domination around the middle. He's calling the tune of the pace of the game. Simon, like there, just likes to seem to take the ball in short, a little bit too soon for my liking, and it's getting himself on the end of rallies just like this.
And Peter Nicol more and more confident as each rally progresses, and confidence is a great energy saver. When you start to believe in yourself, it all becomes easier. But they're unable to pick up the ball off the back wall posts, and Simon Park taking on lungfuls of oxygen. 4-6 now. Simon Park back in the hand. Wonder if he's heard what you've said there, Robbo, if he's going to try and extend these rallies maybe. Certainly, as you say, aerobically, one of the tough guys of the circuit, capable of staying on there and camping for a couple of days on court as he puts out a big match. But I don't know. Nicol's looking good.
It could be a little bit late to do that even now, Robert. 2-love down. But he's not winning these forward exchanges at the moment. The front of the court is getting dominated by the Scotsman. That only leaves the middle of the court and the back of the court. Yes. Again, Simon happy to take that ball forward. He's 2 boasts in a row. He's on the end, he loses the point.
2 yards off the pace there. Peter Nicol having time to just drop it in softly. 8-4. Third game. Simon's so full of innovation and skills. Such a wonderful player to watch. He's been thrilling crowds from all around the world ever since he was World Junior Champion. Peter Nicol, 13-7, and looking to close this match out. And at the end of the day, you have to say it has not been a massive match for him, Robbo. He's fairly cruised into this position and looks like he's going to take a final position.
Well, again, Simon's discipline, his option taking, Robert, proved to be his downfall again. This is just too much work, and too easy. Token throw of the racket.
Well, Simon amusing the crowd with that throw of the racket across the court, but not even he was capable of doing another diagonal run for that. And this man knows, the defending champion, Peter Nicol, he knows he's stepping into this final. 14-7. 2-love up against Simon Park, the world number 5. And Peter Nicol looks like he's going to continue to rewrite the record books. Great advert for the game, great advert for Scotland.
Peter's got his tactics perfectly right today. He really has controlled the pace of the game, Robert. A better central court position and had better options in attack and defence than Simon has.
And I think Simon Park is looking at the last point or so of this year, this millennium. But he's somebody who's going to be back, and thank goodness is going to stay in this game for some time, because he truly is one of the stars of the circuit, and he's got a lot of trophies yet to be won. But that racket in the air says it all, the handshake, and Peter Nicol, he's back in the final, 1999. And the final point, Park pushes the ball down the wall, cross court from Nicol, and out of court, and it's all over.
Oh yeah, I felt that when I was moving really well. It felt really strong, and just playing length balls, I felt I was always getting whatever he put up against me. I was always able to get it back to length and get in front of him again. So that gives you so much confidence. And if you're always doing that, and he's getting more and more frustrated because he can't control, you just get more and more confident, and then you start playing shots, and it starts opening up, and it starts feeling very easy.
Nicol then continuing to grow in confidence as it all went wrong, sadly, for the Englishman.
I was getting tired, and my right leg was starting to ache. I don't think I had a sort of strain or anything. I think it's just overuse, and as I say, Pete pushed me to that state where I was struggling, so there's no excuses.
And there'll be no excuses in the next semi-final either. Highlights coming up. But first, your chance to win one of 6 pairs of high-tech Adrenaline Pro shoes in our viewers' competition. A simple question to answer. Name the last player to beat Jonathon Power and Peter Nicol in the same tournament, Choice of answers: Barada, Heath or Park. And send your answers to this address: High Tech Super Series competition, PSA 82 Cathedral Road, Cardiff, in the UK, or enter via our website, Super Series Co UK. So the crowd's gathering here at the Aberdeen Exhibition and Conference Centre for our next semi-final. And what a fascinating clash of characters it is. Ahmed Barada has risen to world number 3 this year, and so far it's been solid performances for the young Egyptian as he's seen off Stephen Meads, Omar El Baralossi and David Evans. He certainly seems relaxed and confident.
I love to play squash. That's why I'm playing. I can play with any player. I love going to the court. I always have good matches against Jason Power. Maybe I beat him last 2 times, the World Open and then in Heliopolis. But it's always, you don't know who's going to win. And we played very, very hard match in the Tournament of Champions in New York. He beat me there, 3-2. So it's always difficult matches and always interesting matches to watch for the crowd and for everyone.
But all that calm confidence will be needed to defeat the mercurial world number 1, Jonathon Power from Canada. He's bounced back from injury a couple of times this year, but he fights hard when he needs to, as Nick Taylor in round 1, Del Harris in round 2, and eventually Martin Heath in the quarterfinals had to admit. So an electric atmosphere as we rejoin the match commentary of Robert Edwards and former world number 2 Chris Robertson.
Thank you, Alan. And Jonathon Power, I could tell you in the black kit, but in this case, almost a mirror image. Both players wearing all black and both with bandanas, but Jonathon Power, the Canadian and world number 1, is wearing the light-coloured bandana, slightly taller of the 2 players, and Ahmed Barada, the world's number 3 from Cairo in Egypt, slightly stockier, shorter player, making up this second semi-final of the 1999 British Open. And Ahmed Barada, the world number 3, comes into this match having had 2 wins against Jonathon Power, one in not the best conditions at the Al Ahram World Open when Jonathon was injured on court. But he did, in fairness, beat him 3-love at Heliopolis only last month, again in Cairo. But they say it's different here at the British Open, Robbo. A whole new match. Jonathon Power will be up for this.
Well, this is the home of squash. Most coveted title to the purists. You've got a nice contrast in styles. Ahmed very explosive around the middle. Very much a man of passion. Showed some good form in this tournament so far. And John Power, well, you never quite know what you get with him, but if he's on, number 1 seed, very laid back, likes to let the ball drift to the back of the court a little bit more than most other players. They always produce good matches.
As you say, with Jonathon Power, he's a character player, but so skillful. You always feel that if the training is right, if the physical situation is right, then there's nobody can beat this man. Two-love Barada. First game. Good start for him.
And then just, Robert, we saw an evidence of John Power's movement to the front corner. Not ideal. So difficult to get him forward with the quality because he controls things so well. And ouch, he's controlled that into the back of the Egyptian's legs. I think that's smarted a bit.
The crowd. Packed audience for this semi-final. Power taking his time to serve at 13-11. Will be very keen to get this first game under his belt if he can. And 14-11, looks like he's going to take the first against Ahmed Barada.
That was all a little bit slow there from the Egyptian, Robert. Threw the boasting, didn't come up and cover it.
No, crucial sign there, Robbo. And that ball out of court, very tame finish. And it's 1 game to love to Jonathon Power. World number 1 seed. He'll be happy with that. Barada change of shirt, taking on some water. His coach is with him. Hisham and Meda working hard and pumping some information into him. Well, we'll see if that information has been a help as the second game gets underway. With Jonathon Power having served from the forehand court, the right-hand side. There's been, sadly, a bit of a problem in the Barada camp, where his father, Mahmoud, one of the loveliest men of squash, has sadly suffered an illness, and Barada has had to be more or less taken from his bedside to come out and do the US Open and this tournament. He rings home virtually every day. Very close family, and I know he's very concerned about his dad, but at this moment his thoughts will certainly be on beating Jonathon Power. And has he got it? Is there going to be a change in tactic?
Well, I don't know whether Ahmed has a great flexibility, Robert, in changing his tactics. He really is a predator around the middle of the court. Likes to take it early, volley. I think he could develop a little bit more discipline to the back of the court before he takes the ball short, but unless he gets good tee control and gets Jonathon hitting balls through the middle of the court so he can do these two shots he's just played there, volleys, he's going to struggle here today.
And that's Barada special. Long straight drop, finding the nick.
Wow, that's the perfect point. Got John deep. Good early forehand volley in short. And again, good call there from the referee. John saying it's popped up. I can't say I agree with him there. But again, good example of what Ahmed needs to do.
And Jonathon Power has looked very good in this tournament. He's very settled. And when he's playing with this sort of feel and touch, he's got to be everybody's favourite. But he's being given the run around there. But that ball, Jonathon questioning whether it was good. It was up, and Barada serves again at 4-1. Good start in the second game.
Wow, it's magnificent squash there from the Egyptian. Really full of energy and enterprise. Working that front forehand corner.
Yes, left, 4-1.
Nice bit of visual there for the referee. I'm not quite sure it was that uncoordinated of the Canadian. But he plays with passion. Plays with a lot of energy around the middle. If you don't get him out of that middle area, he can beat anybody.
It's hard to think this is the same lad, 15 years of age, 1992. He came onto the PSA Tour, and how has he established himself? Now world number 3, and this great desire to emulate the old greats of Egyptian squash, to become the world champion and the world number 1.
But there, Robert, we see the frailties in his game. If he starts moving the people forward without creating that pressure, John has a racket work to win the points very, very easily. It's that balance between the two that both players are trying to find.
Such a gifted player, Jonathon Power. So much talent. Always a choice of shots for somebody. Oh, and he now is giving us a demonstration of those skills.
Well, it's the time he creates as well. Really does seem that he has more time than anybody else to play a particular shot.
Barada shows his skills. Long backhand drop into the right-hand nick. And the crowd enthralled by this quality squash. Jonathon Power, as always, having a little chat with himself, but it's 13 all, and this is a big, big point. Matches can swing on such a point. Barada, if he can take a couple now to level it at 1 game all, makes such a difference. If he goes 2 love down, that's going to be tough against Jonathon Power. Both players playing some great balls here, Robbo.
Wow, they're using all the court at the moment. It's a super rally.
Power.
Wowee, that's a harsh call. That really is a harsh call, Robert. That's unfair after such a quality rally.
Barada's anguish came over there, and The signal says it. Not really happy with that decision. Pity. It was a big point, and it's 14-13 to the world's number one, Canadian number one, Jonathon Power.
Yes, left. 14-13. Game ball.
And if he can sew this up and take a 2-love lead, that's going to be bad news for Egypt. And that, a timid drop into the tin from Barada, gives such a lead to Power now. 2-love up in this semi-final. And leaving the court, obviously a happy boy. His coach over from Canada working with him. Mohammed there, giving those mighty oak-like legs of Barada a rub.
And while the players take a break, so do we. But don't forget our viewers' competition. If you know the answer to this question, you could be one of the 6 lucky winners of a pair of professional squash shoes. Entry details after the break. We're back courtside with Robert Edwards and Chris Robertson.
Jonathon Power 2-love up, and looking as though he might have booked himself a place in the final against Peter Nicol. 1-love takes the first point of this game, but Barada, can he find in this final big tournament of this century another boost, another great match? Can he come back from 2-love down against Jonathon Power?
He looked a very dispirited figure after the second game, Robert. Very harsh call at 13-all. Played a very bad shot at game ball. He's just had a let call there from the same referee.
Yes, let.
That didn't look a very good call again. And I got the feeling that if Ahmed doesn't get off to a flyer here, he's going to be on his way back to Cairo, mentally more than physically.
Gamble well on that volley.
Stroke power.
Well, they say things comes in threes.
Unable to clear.
That's 3 big ones in a row. All against that man there. Don't know if he's upset this Scottish referee in the course of the tournament earlier in the week. It really does look like he's mentally resigned himself, Rob.
Yes, it's the body language is saying it all at the moment. Now, Barada really needs to get himself focused again. This tournament, British Opens, are big tournaments. They're the ones you play for. They're the Masters. They're the ones you're remembered for. And Jonathon Power flails away at that and hits it into the tin. Now, Barada supporters will want him to lift him. What he would do now with 5,000 of the screaming fans that he has at the tournaments in Egypt. I think he'd probably play their flights over at the moment.
And again, just the unforced errors, the confidence, the need to build a little bit more at this particular stage to get back to some level terms. You can't afford to play risky shots and go more points in there. It's been hit by the ball. That doesn't happen very often, Robert, at this level.
No, that's club squash.
And I hate to say it, but I do think the referee has played a part in this. Very poor call at the end of the second. 2 calls at the beginning of these third games that I personally can't see how he saw it that way. But sometimes it does have an effect on the player's mental
We
state.
made the point, did we not? 13-all in the second. What a big point it was. Sorry that it ended on an arguable point, but Barada has to put that out of his mind. These blows come along, and Jonathon Power hits that ball out. Barada lets the world know where it went and shows us how to play a drop shot. Yep, that's the area. Little wry look from the Egyptian player. Waits for the audience to settle.
Well, at 2-6, he's not out of this. He can't really afford to let Jonathon get to 8 before he can close the gap down. The next 2 or 3 points, pretty vital to continue in this tournament.
Jonathan looks as though he's playing with a lot of confidence. Nice flowing game, nice and easy for him. But this game has always been easy for the Canadian. Well, I don't know what that was in Arabic, but I don't think he's happy with that drop shot, at least 10 inches away from the area he was aiming.
Well, again, he hit a beautiful shot the rally before, but then he had to try and do it straight away. There was no waiting for a better opportunity. And again, another mistake.
Down.
And there's too many mistakes at this level. But this Aberdeen crowd, what a feast of squash they've had. Jonathon Power taking his time, 10-4 up, and of course 2 games to love up. Looking like he's got that final position already booked.
I have to say, Robert, I've been disappointed in Ahmed's game today.
Yes, let. I know the rule. I know the rule, and it was an enforced turning. Conduct warning, Mr. Barada.
Well,
Line
Barada
abuse.
picking up a conduct warning. A little frustration coming in there, maybe something to do with what you've said, Robbo. He feels he's been treated maybe a little harshly on a few calls, major calls earlier on.
I think the referee's obviously got it right there, Robert, and it's right to give him a warning for his behaviour.
Of course.
But the referee has played a part earlier on in Ahmed's mental state.
And that's a great straight drive from Barada.
Not enough situations like that, and I have been disappointed because he's shown some great form coming into this tournament. And in patches during the week, he's shown he's capable of
No let.
playing fantastic squash. He hasn't hit that level today.
And it's 6-10. Can Barada stage a fight back? Crowd fairly hushed at this moment. Although there's body contact there, it's Jonathon Power who's looking like the man here. And that little signal with the fist says it. Jonathon Power looks like he's locked into a final.
Well, Jonathon was happy with that, Robert, because he knew Barada had come at him there. Maybe the last push, as you said.
Stroke.
Surely a stroke. He gets it. A little look from Barada. And I think he's more or less on the plane back to Cairo.
Yeah, I think he's checked the bags in. Checked the bags in, no smoking, front of the bus. He's young. Plenty more British Opens left in him.
As you say, 22 years of age, God-given talents. We're going to see a lot of Ahmed Barada in the pursuit of what he desires most, the top position.
But again, experience is what seems to have counted in these big matches. The mental state, the discipline that's needed to win and perform at your best in these big matches. And the 2 top seeds and the 2 top players in the world have shown that they are ready for this occasion.
And that's match ball to Jonathon Power. And a stroke to Barada. I think he's just delaying the inevitable here. Jonathon Power looking almost certain to go through to meet his great rival Peter Nicol in the final of the 1999 I Group British Open. And there it is. It's all over. We have a final with Jonathon Power, the world's #1, and Peter Nicol, the world's #2. The 2 players who have dominated world squash through the whole of 1999. And as we watch the final point, we now know that it's Jonathon Power, world #1, and Peter Nicol, world #2, head-to-head in the British Open final.
Yeah, I felt pretty good today. Felt like I played pretty well, and I thought if I contained him in the first game and a half, 2 games, that I'd be able to break him physically and mentally, and that's sort of what happened in the end.
And also in the end, Power must have been pleased with how short the match was.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic about getting off 3-love, and hopefully I'm going to be fresh enough for tomorrow. I think so, and Peter should be too, so it should be a great game.
And indeed, everyone expecting a great game. The final that everybody wanted, now in prospect. Peter Nicol versus Jonathon Power. Peter Nicol, with all the advantage of being the local hero. What a reward it would be for all the support of the local bodies, Grampian Enterprise, Sports Scotland Lottery Fund and the City Council itself in bringing the I Group British Open here to Aberdeen. But here's one man who wants to spoil the party. The final that everybody's been waiting for. Another showdown between world number 2 Peter Nicol and world number 1 Jonathon Power from Canada. Nicol too has been in that number 1 spot and he's the defending champion. So a lot to play for here in Aberdeen. He's only dropped 1 game in qualifying, so completely relaxed Nicol compared to last year's event.
The whole atmosphere is different. I'm probably now the one to beat, or Jonathon. 2 of us are going in probably equal favourites today, and yeah, the whole atmosphere is totally different. Playing here in Aberdeen as well, I'm much more relaxed, much more confident, and looking forward to it probably more.
But what are Nicol's tactics going to be when he gets on court against his old rival?
Basically, you've got to stop him playing. And if he can get in front of you and start playing, he'll make you do a hell of a lot of work, and that's what he's done to me previously when he's beaten me. When I've managed to beat him, I've stopped him from playing. I've imposed my game. I think we've got such strong games that whoever gets on top and manages to play it can dominate pretty much the whole thing, and that's why it's been mixed. So it's important for me to get a good start today. None of my normal slow starts. I've got to get on from there from the start. Be fast, be quick mentally, and sharp all the way through, and be ready to change and adapt whenever I sense him attacking or changing his game slightly.
But it's all easier said than done against this man. Jonathon Power is hard to beat when he's fit, and he's certainly been fit and on form in this event. Also only 1 game dropped, and in the last 12 months he's gradually developed a method of playing that's seen him better Nicol on several occasions.
Yeah, I think I developed a game that just gave him a lot of problems at the beginning, and then in the last year I've struggled with a lot of injuries and I haven't been able to be as fit as I wanted to be, and you need to be pretty fit to beat Peter because he just keeps hanging in there and getting the ball back and keeping you into the long rallies, and I feel pretty good this week. This is the first week where I felt close to 100%, and yeah, well, hopefully I'll be able to get my form back.
And after a long hard season, Power is looking forward to a break.
I really want to keep myself injury free. I'm going to do a lot of work during the Christmas holidays and New Year's just to get my body feeling a lot better. I've been injured since the beginning of the season, and I haven't had 1 week to sort of recover. I've just been playing with injuries right up until now, and I've just played so much that my body's sort of gotten used to playing with injuries, which has really been a frustrating year for me, and I don't want to go through that next year because it's just too emotionally draining. It's tough when you can't play the way you want to play out there. It's just it's tough to handle.
So certainly a world-weary number 1, but he'll be picking himself up for this final, and the crowd will be picking up this man, Peter Nicol, the local hero. But he knows his opponent will never say die. He's not number 1 for nothing, Jonathon Power from Canada. We join what should be a fascinating match with our courtside commentators, the voice of squash himself, Robert Edwards, joined by former world number 2, Chris Robertson.
A lovely Scottish welcome brings on the 2 top players in the world. Peter Nicol, defending champion and world number 2, against his mighty opponent Jonathon Power from Canada, now world number 1. Good spirit between the 2 players in their initial handshake, but that is now out of the window. The gauntlet's down, and they both want this title very much indeed. Robbo?
Well, it sets up as a classic final. Both players came through the semi-finals, tough semi-finals I thought, going into the matches very easily. And they really are fresh-legged, full of confidence. Peter got the hometown crowd to make happy. John Power got himself and Canada to make happy.
Well, there's been certainly discussion all year with Jonathon Power about his well-being, his fitness. He seems to have great highs and great lows physically, and He said that he's feeling almost 100% this tournament, and that augurs well for this match. And Peter Nicol, I can hardly remember a time he didn't come to a tournament perfectly prepared and physically at the top of his game.
Well, just quickly going off that, Robert, he showed maybe his intentions there, Peter. Got on the ball very early. John has a tendency to maybe move cross-court looking for the volley, and he really drilled it down the line. He's able to keep the ball straight today, cut the angles down. Going to give John a lot of problems, and Peter has really moved on with his game since the early domination the Canadian showed. A lot more aggressive around there, the middle of the court. Really worked hard on taking the squash to the Canadian instead of the other way around.
And there'll be no secrets about how each performs. They both know their strengths and their weaknesses. It's just a question of who can put it together on the day. Peter Nicol in hand at the moment. This first game of the I Group Limited 1999 British Open here in Aberdeen. Terrific audience, in for a very special match, I hope. Certainly the ingredients are there.
Stroke to power.
Harsh call there from the referee, considering he played a let the very first point of the match that looked very similar. Still, we can only judge him on his consistency. And again, beautiful push length there from Peter. He's got the length balls working well so far. Again, such a massive part of Peter's game. Able to hit balls deep from difficult positions, squeeze. There's a good example of the build-up of the pressure.
Yes, and it resulted in Jonathon tinning that ball. But this has got a long way to run. Peter Nicol certainly has set his stall out. I'm going to work, I'm going to keep the ball tight, I'm going to frustrate, I'm going to annoy. And I'm here, I'm camped for the weekend if I need to.
Yes, let.
An interesting let decision there, the turning ball. A lot of discussion about that. My view is it's supposed to be outlawed, but so far I've seen exactly the same situations. People trailing the ball around.
And we talk about the players laying out their stall, the referees. This is a big day for them as well. World Squash Federation referees in the hot seat. And they'll want to settle early. They'll want to make sure that they're, as you say, consistent. That's what the players demand of them. Certainly at this level. And fine drop there, Peter Nicol.
Weak area there for John Power. Doesn't move fantastically to the front forehand. Difficult to get him up there, but already seen Peter's intentions. John's hit a couple of good shots from deep. But I think Peter would be a little bit happier with his start. Oh, lovely play. Worked him straight. Quickly got on the cross-court ball.
The hometown boy is looking good at the moment. Peter Nicol will be pleased with this.
Yes, lad.
Maybe not so pleased with that call. I think he was hoping for the stroke. 6-3, Peter Nicol. First game. A lot of mileage in this match. Possibly the biggest title in the world to win the British Open. Certainly historically it is. This and the PSA World Open rank as the ultimate tournaments.
Oh, and there we see deception that becomes legendary from the Canadian. Open body, good use of the wrist. I think Peter might not be putting it there next time, Robert. But the beauty of Peter's game is he's mentally very strong. He expects John to do a few of those shots to him today. And as he said in the earlier interview, he will adapt, he will change. Which a lot of squash players out there watching at home don't tend to do. Keep playing the same way, good or bad.
And Jonathon Power won't be happy with that straight drop. At least 4 inches into the tin.
In this previous point, It's the way Peter started up, keeping in front of John, working hard, defending there, getting back in front again. John just losing the patience.
We're back here in the Aberdeen Exhibition and Conference Centre, rejoining Game 1.
Well, it's a big building, a big crowd and a big match. Peter Nicol 7-4 up in this first game of the final. And we'll be interested to see here if Jonathon Power's strength with regard to his thought process, his brain, is going to be a deciding factor in this match. Sometimes he's so capable of sheer brilliance and blowing a player away, and other times he can be affected, get into verbals. Be interested to see what happens. Peter Nicol certainly is going to lock him down and try to cut out the... Oh, lovely shot there from John. Trying to wrong foot Peter. Yes, Peter Nicol
Stroke to par.
has got in the way of the backswing there, and quite rightfully. Jonathon Power picks up the stroke. 5-7 back into hand. Just 2 points now, separating them in this first game.
Clear intention there from John to step things up a little bit.
Stroke to par.
Got earlier on the ball, a few more volleys, a bit more aggressive hitting. Peter showed his intentions as well. Good lifting from the back, hanging in there. And again, contrast from both players, the ebb and flow, trying to arrest the control factor from each other. Really has the makings of a classic.
That 6-foot Canadian mightn't always look as though he's street lightning on the court, but he is actually a very fluid mover.
No, you're coming right on this swing.
Oh, Peter's arguing the point, but really is basic strokes.
No, you're coming right on this swing. Stroke to par.
Referee Jack Allen's correct. Peter's problem there was the quality of the shot, but also he tried to hit them both straight. Maybe he needs to boast it out of there. And there's another stroke.
Jonathon performing a little jig in the corner, and a lovely smile from him. Certainly looking very relaxed, and I think that's good news for Canada.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he's that relaxed, Robert, if he's one love down. I think
things can change, can't they?
Yes, lad. You weren't as close.
Yeah, it's a good call from the referee. Peter's trying to insinuate it's the same situation. Well, unfortunately, it's not the same situation every single time. It has to be judged on its merits.
Unusual to see Peter Nicol talking quite so much, certainly at this stage of the match. But of course we don't play the final of the British Open every day.
A little bit deep there from Peter, standing a little bit deep, I meant by that. And when you stand too deep, the angles become greater and it's difficult to cut the ball out.
An 8-all now, the two players.
And that change in score, really done with the change in emphasis from John Power. He's really stepped up the pace a little bit, volleying the ball a little bit more, taking a little bit earlier. Oh, and then he throws in a bad one there.
Peter had played two great bread and butter balls down the forehand side, very, very tight. And the left-handed Scotsman serves now 9-8. And that's good depth. And Jonathon in the driving seat. The strength of Peter Nicol, scurrying, working, getting back into the rally. Very patient.
Yes, lad.
Wow, it's a testing time for the referee.
Well, they've got a good one in Jack Allen from Ireland. Jack, one of the top referees in the world. A world referee from WSF, World Squash Federation.
Yes, lad.
And he's been given a bit of work here this time again, deciding another let. Both players have a little chat about it.
Well, that was probably not one of Jack's better calls, Robert. Really did appear a stroke was on the cards. But he is well respected, and generally speaking, he's very good in these big occasions.
Lovely flick there from Jonathon. Shows how the game has changed over the years. This flicking of the ball to a length is not something we'd have seen in the old days. And of course, the technology of rackets has changed as well.
Hasn't the pace changed in this match? First little phase in the beginning was all Peter and Jonathon happy to let the ball roll to the back of the court. Now John is a lot more urgent around the middle.
Stroke to par.
He's drawing some loose shots there from Peter. Very unusual for him to hit a cross-court ball straight through the middle of the court.
It's still locked together, 9-all now.
Again, good use from the back of the court from John. Very clever at moving the ball forward.
I think it's fitting that these two players who have really dominated of late should be in this last big final of this century, the last British Open of the 20th century, and two players who have really been out there competing for the world #1 spot. It's gone back and forth with both of them. At the moment, held by the Canadian. But Peter Nicol would have liked that, held that ball for a long time, sucked him in and then flicked it across court for a winner.
Well, Peter Nicol would have liked this because this is what John Power does to him time and time again. Beautiful deception here. Holding straight and lovely little cut angle cross court.
Peter Nicol in the white shirt probably has something like about 99% of the audience support.
Stroke to Nicol.
He certainly got the call on that one. Stroke to Peter Nicol.
Both players are getting a lot of errors through the middle of the court off each other at the moment. Maybe a sign of nerves.
It's been good to see Peter during the whole of this tournament down here doing lots of stuff for the youngsters. Little talks, a few little exhibitions, little coaching here and there, finding time for everybody.
Well,
But this
that's
is his
right,
time.
Robert. I mean, he has to be commended for that. He really is being a great ambassador for the game in Britain, but obviously in Scotland first and foremost. And when he plays squash of that quality, beautiful length, really did hold Jonathon Power back there for 4 or 5 shots and then finished it up with a beautiful backhand drop. All the kids, if they could go away with that knowledge of how to play the game, then he's done his job.
Well, Scotland at the moment can boast 3 top 10 players. Not only have they got Peter Nicol, they've also got Martin Heath, who's quite some player, and John White. So all 3 of them in the world's top 10. Very solid country style. And the match now locked. This is one that really could go on a sixpence. Anything could turn this match, you feel?
Oh, honest call there from Peter. All his ball double.
10-12. Jonathon just 2 points off. But 2 points when you're playing point or rally scoring can go very quickly. That's a terrific pickup from Peter, pushing it deep.
Just at the moment, John's unable to get that ball straight short as well as he would like. Peter's able to return it back with a little bit of interest. That seems to be the difference at the moment.
This is pretty punishing stuff. And of course, squash at this level has received a lot of publicity for the strain and pressures it puts on the top players' bodies. Yourself, Robbo, a prime example. It's taken a lot of top players out with the wear and tear that they get in these matches.
Well, certainly that's a factor, I suppose, in the long term, but in the view of this week, both players have come through this tournament quite easily through to the final. Don't think there should be too many aches and pains at the moment. Nice early volley there from Peter, trying to follow it up quickly.
Stroke to Nicol.
Jonathon Power vents his anger and frustration at that. But no, the score is not going to change. It's 13-10. Peter Nicol has got his nose ahead in this first game of this final of the British Open. Taking his time, Peter. Very, very experienced.
Oh, such a good awareness there of when to take the ball early. Just when John was struggling, Peter was jumping on the ball. Again, good use of the deception.
Peter's giving Jonathon a little bit of a run round at the moment, Robbo.
Yeah, he's got him breathing heavy. He's really worked him well the last 5 or 6 minutes. And again on the early volley.
And that was classic rally.
Well, this is a situation that John's got to avoid if he wants to succeed today. When Peter's taken him forward here, proved a little bit too easy to read. He takes Peter up, Peter puts him back in there, straight onto the racket.
The battle still goes on, some fascinating squash. As the tension rises, back to the action in game one.
Jonathon Power has to find something special now. He's 14-10 down, and that's game ball to Peter Nicol. Peter Nicol in the white shirt, left-hander.
Well, that's one way of finding his way back.
Instant response.
And anybody out there who thinks he meant that, I can confirm that he did not. This first game has really swung around. Both players have worked hard to change their games a little bit, arrest the control out of each other. Quality maybe hasn't always been what we've expected in the past.
Yes, lad. Yes, lad.
Not let. So, Peter Nicol drops his racket.
I've never seen Peter so
No, you shaped at it and then you come back at it.
disappointed and shown so much disappointment to me as a commentator and the referee in the crowd. He really is full of emotion today.
Well, this means a great deal to him. If we remember, Robbo, the emotional moment when he won the title last year and dedicated it to his mother, who had passed away a few years before. One of the great moments of squash to see him win that. And a privilege to have been there that day. Means a lot to him, and he's going to fight, but he's going to have to find something now because Jonathon Power's coming back in this first game.
Well, mentally Peter switched off a little bit at 14-10. Now at 12-14 he really does need to knuckle back in, take this first game and get off.
The crowd absolutely silent as their hero fights for this 1 point he needs to take the first game. Peter Nicol is going to have a stroke against him there. He does, and it's 13-14. Still stays game ball to Peter Nicol. These are big points now, and Jonathon Power has to keep his nerve.
We're seeing another swing again, Robin, aren't we? Just when you thought Peter was going to finish the first game, swung back towards John Power, and Peter's looking a little bit despondent here.
Yes, and that let keeps the score 13-14. You could hear a pin drop in this huge hall. And Jonathon serves now. Are we going to see the first game go to Peter Nicol, or are we going to have a tie-break situation at 14-all? I know what the crowd want. I'm sure Jonathon Power has got some opinion of his own, and that means he wants it to go the distance. He's in the position A, and he's got the point. It's 14-all. And Peter Nicol signals set 3, so it will be the first player to 17 points.
There we saw the strength of John Power. Beautiful manipulation of the squash ball. Moved Peter around everywhere and finished it up with a simple length ball.
Yes, lad.
It's a bad choice from John Power. I agree with the referee. Should play the ball, look for the stroke.
He had the court to play too.
He had the whole court in a little bit more. Is he going to regret that?
So it stays 14-all. And that 3-wall both finds a nick. And Peter Nicol so pleased with that one. comes back in at 15-14.
Well, John Power's going to be ruining, trying to play the referee and not the ball.
Yes, I wonder if that shot or that decision will come back to haunt him, because Peter Nicol had started to look a little weary, a little bit of body language, the head was dropping a bit.
Well, mentally more than anything, Robert, at 14-10, he feels he'd won the game, he was off. He knows how important this first game is in a major final.
Good quality squasher, ball very tight. Good depth from both players.
Wow, it's like an arrow. Wow,
that was a superb shot at the end of a series of good shots.
I'm not quite sure why that's a let. I mean, a little bit of contact, but the ball really was miles away from John Power.
Peter certainly indicated, why don't you play it? I think it was just a little bit tight. And that's surely a stroke. Yes, the stroke. And again, Peter Nicol stands on a game ball, this time 16-14.
Well, he's done so well to gather himself. Very good qualities in a champion player. The ability to come back.
Big moment here. Peter Nicol. Oh, sensational length there from Jonathon Power. Peter Nicol didn't even attempt to hit it. Ball died in the back corner. He's back in 15-16, but it stays game ball. This is tight. You don't get much tighter than this. This game has gone almost down to the wire. And now we're going to see Peter Nicol drag a mistake out of Jonathon. Are we going to see Jonathon play one of his great shots into the nick? Peter Nicol now at the defensive. Oh, my goodness me, what a time to find a 3-wall boast. A little luck there, but it's won him the first game of this British Open final. Peter Nicol, 1 love up.
Well, sometimes people say luck doesn't matter. It does at the moment. Fully deserved to win this game on the whole. Really wasn't looking for the nick, but so happy he found it.
And a very distinctive Canadian world #1, receiving some advice from on the left there, Graham Riding, one of the stars of the circuit. Also from Toronto, and his coach, Mike Way. Here, Peter, with Neil Harvey, who's been such a great mentor and coach for him over the years. And the crowd expect another great game from these two players, and so they should. They're the best in the world. We're watching the cream in possibly the biggest tournament in the world as well.
Well, the first game certainly had it all. Maybe the quality both players would want to improve on, but it went back and forward, and the referees have got a new twist to it by calling a fault. Peter looking a little bit in amazement.
Rarely do you see that at this level.
It doesn't happen very often, no.
Gives heart to all those club players. And it'll be interesting to see if there's going to be any change of tactics. The last game really was so tight, but as you say, Robbo, I think Peter always seemed to just have the edge in it.
Well, he got off to a better start than John, and he got to 14-10, and I think he deserved to win the game just by his consistency throughout the game.
Yes, let.
Both players, particularly John, looking for the strokes a little bit more now.
I think the referee certainly gave a good decision there. Peter had well cleared that ball. And
I think John Power would want to maybe impose himself a bit earlier on in terms of tee control. I don't think he can allow Peter to move from the tee area as much as he did last game. Peter's shown that his game's improved in that respect. He's able to dominate and hurt people from the middle of the court with his volleys and his drops. If John does that too much from the back of the court, I think he could find himself on the wrong end of the scoreline here today.
And Peter, if he runs true to form, is going to do everything just about right. And there, on cue is the example.
Yeah, that's exactly what Peter's been doing well. Taking the first ball in well, following it up with a fantastically early and accurate volley.
And of course, in these big matches, it also gets down to character. We know they're great players. We know what they can do. But you have to have the character to go out there and grab that trophy and take it away. Jonathon having a little chat with Jack Allen.
Both these players as well, great examples to all other squash players in terms of they don't make a great lot of mistakes, and as I say that, John Powell knocks the ball in the tin. They do try to work the squash ball, they do try to find the openings, hit the ball away from the opponents, and it really does lend to a nice flow of game.
Peter Nicol, that characteristic grimace as he serves.
And again, another uncharacteristic mistake there from John Power. Peter's a little bit upset that the referee didn't see that.
Can I have my ball back, please? And he gets it. Ball the score 3-2, Peter Nicol.
It was a bit of a concern. The ball was clearly down. Very sportingly, John Power didn't try to make it any harder for the referees than they're already finding it.
That ball surely not up. It's 3-all now. Again, the scores show the wafer-thin difference between these two players. There's only been a piece of paper between them, not just this match, but really all season. That's what makes this so exciting. There's not anybody out there who would be prepared to put their mortgage on this one.
Again, noticeable every time, Robert. When John Power's taking him in from the back, Peter's very quick to counter drop him, which is an excellent tactic. Didn't quite work in that instance, but it's clearly a plan that's been devised.
And goes up and the score stays 4-3.
As we said, John Power's still looking very fresh. Still got a spring in his step and looks very alert. Not unduly worried about losing the first close game, it would appear.
No, there is certainly positive signs between games in his corner as well. No frustration, it was just solid talk. Good advice probably from Graham and Mike Way.
This is going to be hurting. Oh, and that has hurt.
That was a painful rally.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good breathing going on at the moment there in the Canadian's body. Hand on hip.
He'll be glad of a few seconds to compose himself.
And again, the earliness of the ball taken by Peter, just cutting the time down that John has to decide and to move. It's a gradual process. It's something both players are extremely good at doing to each other.
And again, we're into this terrific width from both of these players.
Early volley again. Worked hard on that aspect, coming in behind the opponent.
Peter this season seems to have used the lob tactically much more than I've seen him over the earlier part of his career. Buys you time.
And here the roles have changed now. John's got Peter going. And what a beautiful backhand flick.
That's that flick we talk about, Robbo, with the rackets of today. Just push that ball away. Hardly a movement of the wrist. Perfect timing.
Well, I thought it was a great response from the Canadian. Previous rally, he'd been on the end of it. Next rally, gets Peter on the end of it.
Yeah, this is like two boxers coming out to meet in the middle. Neither one wants to really back off. 5-4.
Quality in this second game. It's a bit higher than the first game as well, so they've settled down. Not so many balls through the middle. The length and the width, as you said earlier, seems to have tightened up.
And there's so much on this, not just a title, it's those points that give you the world #1 spot, and that's what the both of them want. Recently, Jonathon took it back away from Peter in the last month's PSA ranking list. Now this is going to be interesting. Big discussion from Jonathon, and the let is awarded very quickly, very positive from the referee.
Again, you still see the weak movement from Jonathon front forehand. He really does struggle with that movement, not for any other reason apart from the fact that it's just an area that he doesn't move so well into. think he's always looking to maybe take a let and get out of there if the ball's been placed in there well.
Been quite a year for Jonathon Power, not just world number 1, but took time out to get married.
Well, he took time out to construct a beautiful point here. Beautiful length, forced the boast. Great flick deep. Peter's good enough to get it back, but he can't pick up that early volley.
Well, everyone enjoying a battle worthy of the final of this I Group British Open. A classic showdown in progress here at the Aberdeen Exhibition and Conference Centre. We rejoin Game 2.
So the market calls the score 7-4. Jonathon Power trying to come back to take this second game, level of scores at 1-1. Peter Nicol, of course, leading by 1 game to love. He's brought the trophy here, but he wants to take it back home with him. But Jonathon Power has plans for a transatlantic trip for that trophy.
Another good example of Peter's improved racket skills around the middle of the court. And another one. Can't be putting it through there. Not unless you want to see the points move away from yourself.
2 good points there from Peter Nicol, Scots number 1, world number 2. 6-7 within a point. Still these guys are locked together in battle and in score. And Peter Nicol steps forward and drops that into the top of the tin. Not happy with that. 8-6 now, Jonathon Power. 2 points away from his opponent. Being made to do a lot of work there. Peter Nicol standing on the tee and orchestrating that rally.
Yeah, too many balls coming cross court from John there from the front corners at the moment. Peter's hanging for the cross court ball. And there's a very, very nice early Christmas present for Peter. Collecting his thoughts, yeah, he looks as if he's ready to step it up a gear.
One of the wonderful attributes that Peter Nicol has got is that he never shows anything emotionally. Like a boxer who's been hit, you never know when he's hurting. But I would think at this moment both of these players are starting to feel this, because there's been some tough rallies and a lot of work on the court. They're both making each other move around, and that is a big, big area to run around in. Terrific defense and attack now from both of them. Middle stages of this second game.
9-8.
9-8. Peter Nicol wipes the sweat off his face, looks at Jonathon and thinks, come on now. One more match and we can have Christmas. Being a Scotsman, he's probably thinking of the Millennium State party as well.
Oh, beautiful choice of shot. Saw John start to go cross court. Had enough skill and racket control to be able to take it straight and deep. He's put a lovely phase together these last 5 points.
Definitely a swing towards Peter Nicol at this moment. And Jonathon cannot afford to let Peter take control at this stage. And he'll know that.
I think the beauty of the last few points is that Peter has actually taken it away from John.
Stroke to Nicol.
He's forced the errors, hit the shots.
Well, we've seen Jonathon react like this on a squash court before. Very angry now. Jack Allen has made it clear to him.
Well, he's a lucky boy that a referee cannot lip read. A couple of comments there that we can do without from the world number 1. Pure frustration.
And the match continues 11-8 with Peter Nicol serving.
Oh, and just what Peter didn't want to do. John not too stable in the head at the moment. Don't want to be knocking the ball in the tin from the back of the court. Canadians come flying out of the traps now. Bit of aggression in those movements, Robert.
It's almost as though that altercation with the referee has pumped him up. He's burning some adrenaline now, and a bit of shoe leather as well. This is a fierce rally. And a terrific lift from Jonathon there. Oh, but surely a bad choice there from him. And he flicks that ball into Peter's path, onto his racket, and away it goes for a winner. More frustration for the Canadian.
12-9.
12-9, Peter Nicol takes his time, wipes his hand. Oh, how he would like to squeeze this game out quickly. But you get the feeling that Jonathon Power has really moved up a gear. Takes that point easily.
Well, there wasn't a lot of chasing there from Peter. I think maybe he felt that unless John was going to hit it back to him like previous point, don't waste your energy.
Yeah, terrific backhand into the neck. 11-12, they're back to within a point.
Very aggressive shot there from Jonathon. Hadn't played a lot of kills from the back, just played drops so far. Maybe he realises he has to get a little bit more aggressive here.
This is a great run for the Canadian. 12 all he's come back to.
Trying to speed things up as well.
I wonder if he's sensed a bad moment for Peter here. Certainly the pace from Jonathon has changed. And that was a great shot.
Was indeed, Robert, on it early and hit it tight. Can't wait to serve. Peter's trying to slow him down, which is the correct thing to do.
And there's been a run here for Jonathon Power. 5 points in the row. The Canadian has tripped off on the trot, and it's given him game ball to level the score at 1-all in this final. And that disguise from Peter Nicol was appalling by his standards, into the bottom of the tin, and it's 1 game all in this final.
An uncharacteristic finish to the game from Peter Nicol. Easy ball forward. Played a careless shot there.
But moments after the end of that game, Nicol's coach broke tragic news.
Fellas, Peter's going to have to withdraw.
Nicol no longer able to go on. Chronic dehydration forcing him into an emotional withdrawal. By default, Jonathon Power was crowned British Open champion. But as you can gather, not very satisfied about it. Certainly not wanting to put up this title in this way.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. It's just brutal luck. I thought both of us were going to be fresh today and be able to compete in a hard-fought battle. And started it as a tough game, but obviously Peter got tired a lot quicker than I thought out there, and I was like wondering what was going on. And his coach came and conceded the match after the second game, and it's not the way I want to win it. I'm not excited. I'm not happy. I wanted to sort of get a good British Open title behind me, but whatever.
Meanwhile, Nicol prepares for hospital.
Yeah, Peter's had some diarrhea for the last couple of days, and he's tried to put some food in the last 12 hours, and it's impossible. It's just kept coming out. Feeling obviously incredibly weak, cramp in the stomach. When you're playing at that pace, obviously you're going to start to feel very dizzy and disorientated. I think you'll see from the game that he just completely lost momentum, and there was no way. I mean, I thought he did well to actually go on for the first game and play out. I knew obviously the seriousness of the condition, and because you've got a final to play, you've got to do it. But there was no way we could let him carry on, and a 1-all, it was the best thing to do.
So a saddened Neil Harvey, Nicol's coach, picks up the runners-up trophy as Jonathon Power picks up the winner's trophy for the I Group British Open.